Did you guys get snow the other day?
No, I heard you guys did though.
Yeah. Christmas needs to fuck off. It already took over Thanksgiving and like owns November. It's creeping in. I'm seeing Christmas ads. Half the Halloween aisles at the store are gone. It's too much, too soon.
You should come up here and see all the fucking Halloween decorations, dude. People go nuts up here, apparently. I'm just walking and being like, where do you store these 3 full-size skeletons the rest of the year? You know?
Right.
And obviously the jokes start to write themselves at that point with the closet full of skeletons and shit. But I'm serious. People have all these like blow-up decorations and stuff, and I'm like, man, I have like one closet to put shit in my apartment. I have so much shit stuffed under my bed just because I have like no storage.
Somebody went around our neighborhood and like tied red balloons to all the storm drains. Like,
wow.
And like,
that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, that was out there like that morning, and then somebody like must have went and like cut them all down. Like they weren't even there that afternoon.
Oh man, Halloween grump.
We have like little tombstones or whatever we put out in the yard, and like some lady was walking by one time and she's like, I can't believe you do this to your yard with these dark forces. Like, you know what this holiday is all about, right? This is not good.
Oh my gosh, she was serious about that.
Yeah, that happened the other day at I think this Taco Bell. I paid with like a 20, and the change was $6.66, and the cashier wouldn't say it.
Wow.
She just like stood there and stared at me. I was like, what's going on? She's like, I don't want to say it. And I looked down at the little like digital numbers. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Not Beetlejuice. I think you can.
Yeah, no fucking kidding.
You can speak it. It's okay.
That would be the number of the beast, ma'am.
Yeah.
I will say it for you.
So we were talking about seasonal music a couple episodes back. What are your fall go-tos? Do you get into the traditional AFI, Misfits?
Yes, I do. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, partially just because like those were some of the first bands that I ever truly loved. So yeah, it's funny how much my first kind of steps into, or some of my early steps into like punk music, and when I was first starting to play music, AFI and Misfits were like huge for me and my friends. Definitely, like, as cliche as it is, like the All Hallows EP is so good.
Oh yeah,
like such a good concise representation of that band at a really good point in their career. Misfits, it's more like highlights for me, you know, like I'll definitely have to make a playlist for them because like I usually end up getting bored halfway through a Misfits record.
Yeah.
What about you?
Made a nice little playlist on the Spotify channel, Halloween Havoc. That's got a bunch of stuff on it. CKY, Rob Zombie, Black Sabbath.
Oh yeah, that's all good stuff too. It's funny, Black Sabbath for me is like weirdly a summer band.
All right, I got a either or for you.
Okay.
No distractions. You're just isolated, like the Clockwork Orange scene with your eyes peeled open. You have to do a Rob Zombie marathon of music or movies.
Music for sure. Like I do not like his movies. I understand that like people that are into horror, like these are good. But yeah, I mean, I watched like half of The Devil's Rejects, and this was like before I was really enjoying horror much at all. So maybe I'm just scarred from that and don't feel like stepping back into it. Yeah, that at least to me was like more sadistic on the part of the filmmaker than usually what I really go in for.
Yeah.
So it's gonna have to be music. I guess it's just gonna be Dracula on repeat.
I got the totals. So you begin for 8 albums, 4.5 hours.
Oh,
just
wow.
Straight through the discography, or 9 movies, 15 hours.
Well, I mean, if it's a numbers game, then
yeah,
I made the right choice.
In Devil's Rejects, that's like one of the good ones, and he gets a lot worse.
So are you a fan of his movies? Some of them, it sounds like
that one.
Okay.
I liked what he did with Halloween.
Which one did he do?
He did 2 of them, actually. The first one that he did I thought was interesting just because of like he did a lot more on the night of like Michael Myers as a kid and like going into his background.
Okay.
I thought was cool because once it kind of becomes a remake, it's just pretty predictable at that point. But
sure,
the prequel stuff I thought was really interesting.
It's at least a different take on it.
Yeah, and I think he has a really good visual style. His writing's pretty redundant, where it's just like always these like hellbilly deluxe people who were just
Yeah.
like white trash sadists.
Yeah.
But yeah, Devil's Rejects and Halloween is about it for me. I watched his Munsters movie just because I love the Munsters growing up and I wanted to see what he was going to do with like not an R-rated property.
Uh-huh.
And oh, it was so bad. I feel like he just should have
Oh.
had like a costume party at his house because that's all this was.
Oh no.
It's just like you could have shot this movie like at a Spirit Halloween. Like it just looks so cheap, so bad.
Oh.
I've not like watched the Munsters sitcom. Like there was only 2 seasons of it in the 60s. It was like the same period as Addams Family. And like I've seen like parts of it here and there on TV land like recently where it's like, oh yeah, this is really cheesy, but it's like he tried to copy that exactly and it's like what is the point?
Huh.
Like why wouldn't you want to modernize it a little bit, because all these same like dad joke beats just don't work.
Weird. So he didn't like use any of it. You wouldn't watch it and say, "Oh, Rob Zombie directed this."
Only just because his wife's in it and he casts her as like the lead and everything.
I see.
But yeah, that's really the only. And Herman Munster randomly plays in a punk band, so I guess there you would say this is kind of strange. Why is this happening? Oh, but yeah, I feel like he just should have had like a really expensive Munsters theme party at his house instead of making everybody watch this movie, which was not.
Wow. Oh man.
It was bad. So it took you a while to get into horror movies. You didn't have like a big following of it when you were younger.
No, I was terrified of horror movies when I was younger. Again, for me, it took finding the right flavor of horror, and maybe I've had better luck with like modern horror, because yeah, like some of the more recent stuff, Hereditary, Midsommar, Annihilation, The Witch, that kind of stuff, like I've really enjoyed. But when I was a kid, I remember the thing that sticks out to me was seeing this movie called The Wishmaster. And it was like, I wanted to watch it. It was this weird thing where like no one was home and I was watching it upstairs, and then people got home and I turned it off real quick, and so I didn't want them to know I was watching The Wishmaster. Usually I think my parents would have just been like, "You're not watching that because you're going to get scared or whatever." Then I went downstairs, found The Wishmaster again, stayed up late watching that. I think there was probably some kind of sexy woman in it. That was always the thing, right? Is like,
Wishmaster, somebody's gonna wish for that, right?
Right.
That just bound to come up.
There you go. But a lot of those did, right? They draw you in with sex.
Yeah.
And so even as a kid, you're like, I don't know why I want to watch this, but I do.
Yeah.
And getting scared by the Wishmaster.
I don't think I ever saw that one. I think that one's got like Robert Englund in it, if I remember right.
25 on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that we're saying that's the Holy Grail, but
Robert
Englund was in it. Yeah.
There you go. And you got the guy from Phantasm.
And the dude from Candyman, right?
Nice.
I gotta go back to this at some time and figure out why it had such an impression on me.
For me, it was always like the little like creatures that freaked me out, like
gremlins and
Gremlins. I definitely watched way too young and like traumatized me for sure.
Chucky was like that for me.
I was gonna say I saw like bumper commercials on USA just that they were gonna show the Chucky movie, and that was enough to freak me out. Like if I saw those ads while I was watching something else, I was just freaked out the rest of the night. Or even like the bad basically just the knockoff of Chucky with Goosebumps with like the Slappy, the dummy.
Yeah. Oh, Slappy.
Yeah. Night of the Living Dummy. Ooh, that was tough. A lot of nightmares of him.
The tone of Chucky bothered me just because it was so like kind of like, this is a fun romp, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, but it's not. People are getting hurt by Chucky.
Right. I remember my babysitter was just like, why don't you just throw him? Like he's a fucking Cabbage Patch doll. Like just pick him up and throw him in a lake.
That would have been a good idea.
That's not how Chucky works. You don't get it. He'll bite you. He's mean.
Yeah.
He's a vicious guy. Did you end up seeing Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
Yeah, dude. I really enjoyed that movie. I don't know if it's just because I was so psyched up for it, because I've been listening to the soundtrack, because I like Disasterpeace, the composer. For some reason, I like this genre of vapid rich kids kind of getting their comeuppance.
Yeah.
Have we talked about the show Search Party?
No, we have not.
Okay. So that's another one. I don't know if you've watched that, but
No.
that's another one that's kind of, yeah, same genre that I described, where it's like millennial slash Gen Z-ish kids that are just not great.
Yeah.
But it's that one's more of a comedy. It definitely stretches into horror at times, not as much so as Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. But I mean, honestly, found some of the most horrific stuff, like the friendships between the kids in the film, which are just stuff I would not ever imagine like saying to my friends. I thought it was good. What did you think of it?
I thought it was good. Yeah, I was a little reluctant going in just because I thought this is going to try too hard to sell me on like this big. I feel like there's just been an overabundance of like message horror movies. Like, I'm going to teach you guys
Yeah.
what's wrong with the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't do that. I was glad. It
Mhm.
wasn't like patronizing or anything. Like you said, the relationships and the characters were all really well done. So
Mhm.
I appreciated that. It was a lot more of like you said, kind of relationship based and comedic than just like a whodunit murder mystery type thing.
Yeah.
Even though there is that going on, it doesn't hinge solely on that.
Right. I may not be right in framing it as like focused on a certain generation. I think maybe you could say it's fair to say that just because how much like group chats and TikTok and shit like that comes up throughout their conversations.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty key points where I think they're trying to show you like a certain obsession or reliance on technology, but it is definitely played for laughs more so than like you young kids need to wake the fuck up or whatever. Like
Right.
luckily it's not doing that. And yeah, I think the most important stuff that it's saying is really applicable to any person in any relationship, which is just like, are you being honest with people or not? But
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't get bogged down by that. It definitely is just like some good times. And it doesn't get hung up on the mystery too much either. Like it's so like subtle in a way. And when you look back on it, all the scenes where shit's going down and you're kind of trying to figure out like, okay, who could have done this or what was this person doing right before this scene started or right before they were on camera. It's just really well done as far as like you can just see it going either way a lot of the time and it doesn't tip its hand at
Yeah.
any point. So
No, I thought it was really good. Doesn't have like a blueprint that you can see underneath it all. Like it feels very natural just going along through all the different events, which I really
yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I could really predict what was going to happen next, other than maybe at a certain point, it did seem like, okay, bodies are stacking up
Right.
and we're definitely going in that direction of we're whittling down people. But no, other than that, yeah, it was nice and surprising.
Are there any go-to like Halloween TV episodes you remember growing up with?
Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is the best.
Treehouse of Horror, the one the one with Pigeon Rat, dude.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life when I was a kid.
Pigeon Rat's great. Is that the
It's
same one
great.
where Homer sells his soul for a donut? That one's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'd have to dig through 30 seasons.
Yeah. Also, pretty sure I can't remember, just like on the tip of my brain, I feel like there were some pretty good Batman the Animated Series, like Halloween themed episodes.
Oh yeah.
Like even just the ones that like there were some great Scarecrow and Mad Hatter episodes of that show that whether or not they were specific to Halloween, they just had that kind of vibe just because of those characters.
Yeah, I still need to go back and rewatch that. I remember one really vividly. I don't remember if it was like Halloween specific, but it freaked me the hell out with was it the Man Bat? And they were like trapped on an airplane with him.
Oh wow.
That was pretty nutty. I remember being pretty freaked out by that for a like cartoon.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there was a Mad Hatter episode of that that really freaked me out.
Yeah. Goosebumps always did it for me. Not to bring it back to that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember like the first episode of that show aired like Halloween night. So came back and watched The Haunted Mask after trick or treating. That always sticks out in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Parks and Rec, the Pocahontas episode. That one's always classic.
Oh, right. Yeah, the TP guy.
What is it, Peach Pit that he always leaves everywhere?
Yeah, that is a good episode.
You didn't get into the Jeffrey Dahmer show at all, did you?
No, have you been watching that?
No, I just feel weird about some of the true story stuff. Like I know this one's at least like fictionalized, so I'm not watching like documentary footage, but just yeah, knowing that like there's survivors of this dude like out there with this going on again, and I'm just like, it just makes me feel gross.
That is really gross. Yeah. No, I mean, even just from the packaging and presentation of it in ads, I just feel like it's glorifying that shit in a weird way. Like it's so strange to me. I'm not very into the true crime stuff.
Yeah.
Like I watched the one that everyone was insane about on Netflix like very long after it aired and had like a brief like okay, yeah, I can see the appeal of this stuff, but yeah, when I think about it, I think it's pretty gross that we are all just getting off on that stuff and that there are people just living with it and it's their actual problem. I think it's like it's such an extreme example of like lack of empathy and not understanding how things that don't affect you affect other people often in like hugely significant ways. And we're often just trivializing things.
That was kind of another thing with another great Netflix property, the Blonde movie that came out about Marilyn Monroe. Had you heard any of
Yeah.
that?
I've heard some stuff about that too. I don't think I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like when I watched it at first, I was like, oh man, like the director, Andrew Dominic, did a really good job. Like it's just a giant fucking tragedy of a movie, and you feel terrible for her. But like it's also strange that like the whole movie is signifying how much like this woman was exploited throughout her life, and that's like kind of exactly what this movie's doing.
Yeah.
Again, especially in the way that it's portrayed, like she's basically just being used by everyone, and it doesn't make her seem like she has her own voice. It doesn't highlight any of her accomplishments, really, like
Wow.
her production studio or anything like that. Like it honestly feels like a David Lynch movie. Like this feels like he turned Marilyn Monroe into fucking Laura Palmer.
Damn.
And yeah, like it's got crazy visuals and it's really haunting, but it's like I don't know. I don't know why he felt compelled to make this movie because it seems like, yeah, he really doesn't like Marilyn Monroe or kind of like wants to tear down the facade of this like icon that she's become, where everybody just kind of props her up as this empty mascot like an Elvis or James Dean without really knowing much about her. And
sure.
I get that to an extent, but like you got to have a little bit of the other side of that coin. Like it can't be all just fucking heartache and tragedy.
Yeah, I don't know. That's very strange. Kind of makes me, some of the stuff you said makes me think of like, and I didn't check any of this out, but like the Pamela Anderson.
Oh yeah.
And like her sex tape and everything, and how she just like the real life Pamela Anderson had like no agency in that situation at all.
Right.
And it's incredibly strange. That situation in particular, I guess, because she's still alive, but
right.
I guess that shouldn't be, it should, yeah, we should probably not be doing it either way.
Yeah. And well, and even so, this movie was based on a book, which is, let me get the terminology. So it was based on the novel, which is a fictionalized biography. So, like, they're just filling in details that never happened to tell a story using someone else's fame and image. Like, that's. I don't even understand how something like that's even legal, other than the fact that she has no one to stand up for her.
She's just purely iconography at this point.
Right.
Like they're just writing fan fiction about her life.
It's just insane.
I don't think I'm gonna watch that one.
Yeah, it's tough to watch, man. I mean, and it's like 3 hours, NC-17. I feel like it's going to be like, looking back, it's going to be like the breaking point of Netflix being like, all right, we can't just let these directors do whatever the fuck they want. Because this one like is just so unwieldy, so ridiculous. Like I know a long time there's been the narrative of like, oh yeah, all these studio executives come in and tell these great artists and directors how to make their movie. But I think to some extent you need other voices in the room. Otherwise you end up with stuff that's just 4-hour mafia movie from Scorsese when you could cut a ton of shit. Or, there's plenty of instances now. And I think that's where Netflix is getting into trouble, especially with how much they're paying for this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like I hesitate to think or to put much stock at all in the decisions of executives, because when you go around the block and look at this Discovery Warner merger and the shit show that is, it's like, well, obviously they're not doing anyone any favors over there. So like, what is that? Who is it that has to come in? And I feel like that comes down to people on the production, right? That's what happened with the prequels. Is George Lucas hired a bunch of sycophants that didn't tell
Yeah.
him how bad his movie was while he was making it.
Only he didn't have his wife there to tell him, what the fuck are
Yeah.
you doing, George? Like,
Yeah.
regular people don't understand what you're doing right now.
Yep. Lost a lot of key people over the years and then was left to his own devices.
No, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere. Like, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Either way, the executives for Netflix and Warner Brothers or whatever can just fuck off. I don't think that them showing up is doing anyone any favors.
So, did you see the big news about Tom DeLonge rejoining Blink 182?
My brother told me that the other night. Yeah. And are they going to like record some music together again?
Apparently, they have. They have a new album, but yeah, they released the first single and it is terrible. Like, Tom's voice is auto-tuned all to hell, so it's like, why even bring him back?
Is that just his style nowadays, or can he not sing well anymore?
Well, that's the thing. I remember seeing him with Angels and Airwaves at like a Warp Tour, and he definitely could not sing as well as he thought he could. Like, I definitely trust Tom DeLonge's judgment in 2001 way more than I trust his judgment in 2022, because he's already claiming this is our best album yet and it's gonna be, you know, so progressive. But has anyone ever said like this is our best material yet and actually like meant it? Anytime somebody says that, I feel like it's always like, oh, they're trying too hard.
Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be some people that actually believe that, but
well, if they believe it, they don't proclaim it. It's the people that proclaim it
right.
once before you hear anything that makes me.
That's true. That is not like, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence when you hear that.
Yeah.
Like it is kind of just a gut reaction is like, oh, okay.
Right.
I don't know if that really made me feel better about this.
Well, they're doing a lot of touring. Like, didn't they just get Travis Barker on a plane for the first time like a few months ago?
Yeah, man. I hope he doesn't overdo it because, yeah, that's some serious stuff.
It's quite a bit. The ticketing has been insane. I was looking at it just because, yeah, I've always kind of wanted to see them. I've never got to, but with the crazy like surge pricing model that Ticketmaster has now, it basically just inflates all the tickets based on web traffic. And this has been so popular that like decent seats were like $400 or $500 in like, yeah, just insane. So yeah, I don't think I'm seeing Blink 182 anytime soon.
Damn, where was that?
That was in Chicago. And
yeah.
I think that one got so much traffic that they opened a second date, but still, it's, yeah. And they also announced that they're going to be the headliners for When We Were Young 2023. So that massive festival in Vegas that we talked about, they are headlining that next October with Green Day. So
wow,
a ticket to that would actually be cheaper than just seeing Blink 182.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So who do you think takes like the main headliner stage, Green Day or Blink? I mean, Blink's got the momentum with reuniting. If Green Day wouldn't have been putting out shitty music,
you think that's why they did it?
Yeah.
They were like, we're gonna fucking steal Green Day's thunder.
I feel like that's the reason NoFX is breaking up. Like, people haven't noticed that they're still touring and making music. They're like, nah, we're gonna break up. That way we can do a reunion show in like 5 years and people will care again.
But will they care again? Gosh, I don't know. It's got to be Blink with that big announcement, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's like a Game of Thrones-esque move where you're like coming in at the last second with some sneaky darkling scheme. Like, yeah, what if it's not even Tom DeLonge and it's just Matt Skiba in a Mission Impossible mask?
In a mask. As soon as I heard the first single, I was very glad I did not let nostalgia take over and let me buy $400 Blink 182 tickets, because
yeah,
that new stuff's painful.
If it's their best thing yet, then you know they're going to be playing a lot of that album.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What does it sound like? Does it sound like any of their other music? And can you compare it to, is it like we're going back to our roots, or is it?
It sounds like, did you hear the California album they did with Matt Skiba?
No.
It sounds like that. Like, it sounds like really plain, like you can't even tell it's Travis Barker on the drums. Like, it's just really boring pop rock. Like Blink 182 doing like Fall Out Boy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's not.
That makes sense. I should have predicted that.
But there has been a lot of good music out lately.
Yeah, there has.
Was there any that you particularly want to jump into first?
I'm always partial to Freddie Gibbs.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just more of a localized loyalty kind of thing.
Right.
But ever since Freddie his album, like I think about 4 albums back. Everything he's put out has been solid, and love his records with Madlib. But this kind of feels like it reminds me of that Freddie album. The beats are a little more basic and trappy, but they're fucking solid. And I like the mix on everything. And I feel like when he doesn't work with Madlib, he stretches out more rhythmically with how he does his lines and everything. And he, as stereotypical as like the triplet has become in hip hop, Freddie just has such a good triplet.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes the songs he uses will kind of stray a bit more into like the 3/4 grooves a bit. And I just don't feel like you hear people doing that, but he just nails it. Talking about Coke, right? He's another Coke rapper like Pusha T, but I like this album way better than Pusha T's album.
Yeah, for sure. So I really like Pinata. I think that was where I got introduced to Freddie Gibbs and Matt.
Okay.
And so like that was my introduction. And then they did a follow-up to that a couple of years ago called Bandana.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that one as much. I felt like
not a lot of people did from what people I talked to.
it seemed like they were growing in different directions. And like, I feel like this is the lane he needs to be in, a more contemporary, like modern vibe, even though I love what Madlib does.
Yeah.
I just think his style being more like slow and soulful, like doesn't quite mesh with the way he's doing his vocals. And I feel like this is probably like his most like universally accessible record.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you could show this to anyone who likes hip hop and they would find a track on here they like. What is that? Too Much, I think. That's probably one
Oh man,
songs.
that's a banger. Yeah.
Too Much, and what's the other one? CIA, Crack, Instagram, and AIDS. That one. That's a great closer.
No, I liked a lot of the songs off of it. Like there were a lot of standouts for me and stuff that could have been singles. Album as a whole is great. But yeah, no, you make a good point about this being more his lane. Because yeah, I think that he definitely tried a lot more new stuff on this album than what he did on Bandana.
Yeah.
He's also I feel like he's typically pretty light on the features too, which I appreciate because I mostly just want to hear, unless it's a special occasion or something, just fucking do your thing. You can have some friends over, but
right.
I'm here to listen to you for the most part. So yeah, I like that.
He had some nice little features in the voicemails kind of after the songs.
Those were my least favorite.
You didn't like those?
KD can get out of here. I don't like that.
We're in such like an instant gratification age. Like if you're going to include sound clips on your record,
it shouldn't just be. It shouldn't just be there to be like, yeah, I'm friends with Kevin Durant. That's all that is. It's like, hey, call me back. It's like, all right, cool. Was that even him?
Yeah, I did. Kevin Durant impersonator.
Oh, what a job.
Have you heard of this Field Medic guy before?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, this was my first time listening to him. This album kind of blew me away. I think I talked to you offline about it. A little more like acoustic indie kind of thing going on, but
right. Grow Your Hair Back Out or something is the name of the album.
It's super long. Grow your hair long if you're wanting to see something that you can change.
Okay.
But the album itself, man, like just the lyricism, the songwriting, it's all done so clean, so well. I'd never heard him before, but I like this so much. I dove back into some of his older records, and it's a little more like bedroom pop and lo-fi, like not quite My Bloody Valentine, but kind of like that very distorted indie pop. But this stuff where he's like going into like alt country terrain, I like a lot better. But yeah, all the weird little twangs and stuff, it's kind of reminds me of like a Father John Misty or like a Tallest Man on Earth type thing.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, for someone that's not too into that style of music, what makes it stand out to you?
For me, I think it's just like the simplicity of the melodies and how well written the lyrics are around the music. Like it's something that I can get lost in just listening to the lyrics without even really paying attention to the music because it just flows together so effortlessly. So
cool.
Okay, what do you want to dive into next?
What was the more like punk band?
Oh, Meatwave,
dude. Meatwave is sick. I'd never listened to this band before, and I was completely fucking thrilled by this new album. What is it called?
Malign Hex. They're really good. The record they put out before this, The Incessant, I would highly recommend that if you haven't.
Okay. Definitely going to check that out. They have some of the same stuff that I like about Black Midi. This record reminds me of some of their stuff in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's this fast, sometimes intricate playing, and often just very good dark chord choices that you don't typically hear. And yeah, I mean, it definitely has some punkness to it. Like at times it was almost reminding me of like the old Cursed records. I don't know if you were ever into Cursed, but yeah, it kind of reminded me of some of the parts I like off 2 and 3. The fucking vocals are interesting. There's almost like an Interpol type thing going on, but more suited for punk rock, I think, or whatever they consider themselves. I think I saw somewhere that they like to go by post something, or they've like said that that's their genre before, which I think is good. What did you think of this album?
I really liked it. Seeing them live, like they're a 3-piece and there's just so much going on with, like you said, all the like loops of riffs on top of riffs on top of riffs.
Mm-hmm.
So like seeing him do all that in these weird time signatures while he's singing on top of it.
Oh,
like a wild thing to take in as somebody who struggles just to sing and play at the same time myself.
Oh man. Well, and as someone who still can't.
Right.
Yeah, that's fucking cool. So jealous of that.
It's cool that their record, you know, they have all these themes of like hexes and being hypnotized and stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like. There's all these repeating patterns and they kind of lull you in and just keep building on it and swirling intensity. And it's a really, really cool formula. And again, for like a punk band, I'm surprised by how much I'm like just hooked on every word that he's saying. Like, even though the music is really interesting, I find myself listening super intently because the lyrics are always really well done as well here.
Yeah, I was definitely getting dragged into the vocals as well, which is weird because I was really content with the music and interested to hear what it was doing. But part of that is the clarity of the lyricist as well, which I really like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it creates like just a good, there's almost like, as weird as it is, this hypnotic soundscape type quality to some of their stuff. I think some of that too is like they just know how to write good grooves, it seems.
Yeah.
Everything nothing feels forced. It's like the type of songs that just write themselves. And yeah, I mean, everything I was just bobbing my head to, which again is like not always a regular thing for me or even what I'm looking for, but I appreciate a good groove, especially in punk rock. Like that's typically not the priority, but like I love it when there's just a good feel to the song.
Do you have a standout?
Yeah. Fuck. Hang on. Let me look real quick. It was What Would You Like Me to Do?
Oh yeah.
That one was cool. It had a good setup too, just because those first 4 are just great. I listened to those a couple times. Those 4 in particular, I was like, these are pretty great. What else did we have on here? Billy Woods, right?
Yep, old Billy Woods. This is just going to turn into the Billy Woods fan pod.
Yeah.
I've listened to both of them because I don't know which one I like better. And then I'm like, if he would have just released this as a double album, like that would have been perfect. Like I would have loved it. But there are parts of each that I like a little better than the other. And then I'm like, well, if I'm finding these parts that I don't necessarily think are as strong, maybe I like this Field Medic album better. Maybe I like Cheat Codes better. I don't know. I can't pick an album of the year.
Yeah, Cheat Codes, I think, knocked Billy Woods down. And then Billy Woods made a comeback with this new album. And now he's back on top again. Damn.
Oh, no. I don't know where I'm going to end up. New Taylor Swift at midnight. That's probably it.
Oh, okay. Well, you joke, but I mean, where is Beyonce right now on your list?
That's true. That's
She's
pretty
high up there. I'm impressed by just how non-traditional his sound is, and to put out 2 albums in that same style in 1 year. Because I would not. You used the word accessible to describe Freddie's new album earlier. I would not call Billy Woods very accessible.
Yeah.
and it seems like, a lot of people would have kind of like what Kendrick was doing early in his career, is doing like his big stadium albums.
Oh yeah.
And then his art albums or whatever, his jazz albums.
Right.
But Billy Woods has just decided not to play that game and just release music that he thinks is cool, but music that is also like at times very discordant.
It's definitely earwormy too. Like it's always something where I'm like, okay, that was different. And then I find myself like, okay, what do I want to listen to today? Yeah, I want to listen to that again. And like it just grows and grows on you for sure. I think it's something if you heard like a one-off, it would be hard to sell just on like a single track.
Yeah, for me, I think it's like the first one off Aethiopes, and there's not even really a beat. I mean, there's some instruments and he's in it, giving it some rhythm, but that keeps showing up in my liked songs, and I will go play the album after it shows up some of the time, just because, I mean, I don't know, that is kind of what you're saying. Like that one intrigues me enough to bring me into the album. That is such a cool way to start a hip hop record.
I guess, is there anything else you want to get to before we do recommendations?
Do
we need a fantasy update? Are we still processing?
Oh my gosh. The fantasy stuff has been wild.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe when they're both done, I can give everyone an update. We can go back to fantasy corner.
Okay.
If anyone dares join us there in that horrible place again. I was gonna recommend a composer named Junya Nakano.
Okay.
He did some of the songs on one of the Final Fantasy games that I like, which was forever ago, and I don't think he works in games so much anymore. But he's been posting stuff on his Spotify, and I don't know if these are associated with a certain game or like other project, but God, it's really good. Like, I just feel like he has this unique blend of ambience and discordance and just like different kinds of harmony and chord changes that you don't typically hear. And it's all like kind of video gamey sounding, uses like probably soft synths for a lot of stuff, and some of it's a bit dancier on this new album called 2038 to 2062. Pretty good for walking around, pretty good for studying if you're doing any studying like me. So check out Junya Nakano, the composer. That's a good one. What do you got? What's your recommendation?
So I had a couple good ones, actually. I went and saw my first Broadway show the other day, The Embassy.
Oh, wow.
The Book of Mormon was in town, and it was super funny. It's from the dudes who did South Park, like have a full theater background. That was initially what they were going to do, went to college for. And obviously you can tell that with a lot of the South Park songs and Team America and stuff, but this is a full-blown Broadway production. And yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure how it would go over with the audience in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but everybody seemed to enjoy it. I didn't see any angry storm outs or anything, but
that's good. Yeah. You never know.
Right, exactly.
Your neighbor that said the thing about the Halloween stuff, she probably didn't go.
Well, I heard when the embassy here locally had Ghost play, there was protesters.
Oh.
So I was like, you never know. And then, for Halloween stuff, the other day, I had a root canal at like 8 a.m. in the morning. And so I was just zonked out of my brain on nitrous and painkillers.
Dude.
Ooh, I want to go see Terrifier 2 because I've heard it's just making people vomit and pass out in the theater. So I went and saw a matinee of Terrifier 2 by myself. Wow. Literally the only one in the theater. 2.5 hour, most gruesomely violent movie I've ever seen. And it was just the most peaceful environment I've ever been in. I loved it. It was great.
Wow. All right.
I don't know what that says about me.
We might have to check back in on that.
So have you heard of the first Terrifier movie?
No.
It's about Art the Clown, who's just this creepy, silent clown that goes around killing people. But this second one is completely crowdfunded. I think they raised like $250,000 to make this movie. And it's only been in theaters like with the weird, whatever it's called, like Fathom Events ticketing, where it's like very select theaters, but it's done so well. It actually knocked Top Gun out of the top 10 for the first time in like 19 weeks.
Damn.
So it's like this little underground success story. So I was like, yeah, I got to go see this, and absolutely worth it. It is very niche, very gruesome. But like, if you're somebody who's seen a lot of horror movies and feels like you have seen it all, this is definitely something you have not seen before.
This is what you have to turn to get your high.
Just the character design, like he is fucking terrifying. Google Art the Clown right now. I want to see your face.
I don't want to do it. I'm gonna watch Wishmaster instead, dude.
I'll watch Wishmaster if you watch Terrifier 2. How about that?
I don't know.
Doesn't sound like a fair trade.
Yeah, not exactly.